This episode is powered by NHL Sense Arena. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome back to another edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. I'm Lee Elias, joined by Mike Bonelli. Christy Casciano Burns is on assignment tonight. But today's guest knows both the highs and the hardest realities of the games. He was selected second overall in the 1981 NHL draft. He starred in the OHL with the Ottawa 67s, winning the Bobby Smith Award for Outstanding Academic Achievement. Parents, you're going to love this episode. While also putting up over 100 points in just 54 games. He went on to play in the NHL for the Los Angeles Kings, the Buffalo Sabres, Edmonton Oilers, Vancouver Canucks, and the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then, in 1992, everything changed. A devastating spinal injury overseas left him with a prognosis of life as a quadriplegic. But Doug Smith did something extraordinary. He fought back, regained movement, relearned how to walk, and rebuilt his life with purpose. Today, he's a businessman, a founder of a charitable donation leader, and a motivational speaker, helping others understand what true resilience looks like. Get ready to be inspired, my friends. Doug, welcome to Our Kids Play Hockey.
Oh, thanks for having me on today. What a great day it is here in Ottawa.
Yeah, hey, buddy. Listen, it's a great day everywhere right now. You know, it's funny. We're recording this on June 15th, hours after the Stanley Cup final concluded. I think it's an interesting day for hockey fans. If you're in Carolina today, you're very happy. And then everybody else is just undefeated as we start the day for the 26-27 season. But beautiful in Ottawa, beautiful in Philadelphia, where I am. Mike, I know you got storms last night too. Probably beautiful across the eastern seaboard. But Doug, let's start here. I want to ask you this. We're going to talk about your hockey career a bit. We love having guests like you on because you've lived the experience, right? I said it in the open. You were selected second overall in the 81 draft. That comes with enormous expectations. At 18 years old as a teenager, how do you handle that kind of a spotlight? And what do you think youth players misunderstand about being highly ranked or highly drafted in the aura around that?
Yeah, you know, it's a great question. There's so many invisible things that you don't know are coming at you, but they are, and they're dangerous things. And when you're 18, you're not prepared to even look for them because, you know, you're living full out. And so today what I do is I help people see those invisible obstacles that are in their way that, you know, because you're either helping your performance or you're hurting it, right?
Right.
And I didn't know whether I was helping it or hurting it. And so now I deliver a systematic approach to performance and recovery, which allows people to look at it, to look at a map and go, okay, I shouldn't turn right, I should turn left. And,
right.
and it's that simple to pick up on how to protect yourself in these types of environments. I didn't have that. And LA was, it was the first year of the 18-year-old draft. So they had been only drafting 19-year-olds and 20-year-olds. And they went to the 18-year-old draft. Dale Howardchuk went first. Doug Smith went second. Bobby Carpenter went third. And Ron Francis went fourth. And we were part of a big experiment. That's really what it was.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, you know, back then, I think, you know, you look at the landscape of hockey and, you know, the desire to play in the NHL, but obviously you must have had some type of other, strong support system, you know, going on to win the OHL's Bobby Smith Award for Outstanding Academic Achievement. I mean, that's something we don't even hear, right, from draft choices right now. We don't like, oh, the person got drafted. Oh, and by the way, they're an excellent student athlete. Like, it doesn't even come into the lexicon of the discussion. And I'm just wondering, you know, the discipline that you must have had off the ice to achieve a goal like that. What's that teaching? What could our athletes take away of how that can help you on the ice today?
I was in a unique position. Look, my mom, because I live in Ottawa, my mom made a deal with Brian Kilrea. And then to get drafted into the NHL, my coach, you know, Brian Kilrea made a deal with George McGuire. You know, and I ended up there. I just happened to be connected to the right people, and they protected me and they surrounded me. And I had my injuries, but I was always surrounded by family and people I couldn't imagine being injured and living 8 hours away from my family and trying to recover. And so every time I got injured, every time I had to get back into the game, it was basically, I was surrounded by love, and that's the thing that heals you, right? And protects you. So I got better fast. I learned how to get better fast and get back in the game, because you're not going to get away with no injuries.
Yeah, I'm wondering too, just based off of your background on the academic side, is, we talk a lot about, like, especially like when I'm working with prospective college students. I'm like, well, when you choose, if you're not going to get drafted to the NHL and you're going to just go to college as a student, one of the things you want to project is, if I go to this particular school, can I be successful here if hockey is taken away from me? And it's exactly what happened to you, right? I mean, hockey was pretty much taken away from you. And do you feel like that great, strong base in your academic piece has helped you succeed where you are right now today?
Well, it's the way I think. I think is the answer to that question. I have a unique way of thinking, and I believe that you should be open, random, and supportive, as opposed to closed, selective, and controlling. And if you're open, random, and supportive, you'll have things coming at you, opportunities coming at you. They come at me all day long, and they don't come from the hockey market. They come from different markets today. So being able to attract opportunity into your life, I think, comes from the way that you behave as an individual and what you attract from the world. And I like, again, my mother, she was a single mom, and she carried me on her shoulders, man, through the whole thing. And then she introduced me to my wife at Nortel Networks, and we got married, and we'll be married for 40 years. And my wife put me on her shoulders. So I have 2 daughters and 2 sisters. I've been surrounded by women my whole life. And you know what? I have to attribute 80% of my success to that.
Yeah.
It's an amazing point you bring up, Doug, on a few aspects here. One is, earlier you said about how you help people now with the path, right? The pathways that they're trying to make. And it's funny, what I like to tell youth hockey families is there's no one direct path to your goal, your dream, whether that's the NHL or anything else. But success leaves clues. You can ask for directions. Like, that's one of the things that I think people forget. And
if you know you need directions,
right?
Yes.
Right. That's just where I was going to go with this. Right? Is that a lot of times, I have this with my own kids, kind of making them understand you're not the first person to have done this, which is okay. I think everybody wants to be, especially kids, I want to be the originator. And it's like, there's been a few billion people on this planet over the history of mankind. Somebody may have done this before. And success leaves clues. So my question to you, and especially, I love that you brought up the women that have inspired you in your life. Can we talk for a minute about how success leaves clues, what approaches worked to get you to either awaken or understand the directions that you were given?
Mm-hmm.
You said it was based in love. And I'm just curious about that, because I always love to give our audience some actionable examples or items that we can discuss here about, hey, here's a great way to give information. Here's also a great way to take information, right? But the directions are available if you want them.
It's going from your current reality to your desired future. That's called a bridge, right? Whatever your current reality is, there's a bridge to your desired future.
Love that.
And if you can build that bridge, and this works in corporate too, right? It works for anybody that's out there. And if you can build that bridge, and you have to build it. It's not like anybody else is going to come along and say, Mike Lee, I'm gonna build this bridge for you so you can get to your desired future, because you wouldn't even get on the bridge. Right. You wouldn't even recognize what it was, because it wasn't yours.
That's a great point.
And that's the central nervous system. And so today, that's what I spend all my time on is focused on the central nervous system. And the books I read are like encyclopedias to better understand how we can recover and perform better. And I can, when I meet somebody and they tell me their situation and it's not good physically or psychologically, I have the tools in my tool belt to say, maybe you could try this, or maybe you could try that. And then that's why I learn. That's why I learn about this stuff. And I try to keep, when I got out of hockey, I was the VP of Linux Care, the biggest professional services play in open source. I was one person away from the top people in support for the revolution, to change the way that the internet works. And so like I went from hockey to that stuff, right? Because I had to figure out a better way. And if you're playing a sport, if you're a kid playing a sport and you're not spending your time figuring out a better way to do it and just trying to copy somebody that's doing it already, then the chances of you succeeding are going to be a lot lower.
So I think, go ahead, Lee.
Well, I just want to pull the thread on that real quick because, Doug, I love what you're saying. I'll tell you why. Because something I wish I had been told younger. And you know what? To your point earlier, maybe I was told this younger. I just didn't hear it till I was a little bit older. But I know the time and the dedication I was willing to put into the game. And it wasn't until maybe my early 20s that I realized, oh, wait, I can apply this to anything. It's not just hockey. And what you realize is that was kind of in me all the time. I was just applying it to the game and only the game. And I think that what you said earlier about, I just think differently. I do things differently. I bet you approached the game the same way. So where I'm going with this, especially for the parents, is that, if you're listening to the show, especially if you're a kid, you probably have a kid or you are a kid that is very enthralled by this game. That relentless pursuit towards your passion should be applied to school, should be applied to other extracurricular activities, should be applied to just being a good person. And I think that from a youth sports standpoint, I'm going to go even broader here. That's something I wish we did more as coaches, and I'll say as a community, is to inspire these kids that it's so amazing that you have a love and a passion for this game. Just know you can apply this to anything. And the more you do it outside the game, the more it will actually affect the game, right? The kids are relentless at school, at music, at chores, and the game are getting more reps in of what I'm talking about. Can you comment on that a little bit about your personality and what you've seen?
Well, okay, so playing hockey, I always thought it was about being the best in the world. And I was pursuing being the best in the world. And I got there. I was one spot away from being the best in the world when Dale Hawerchuk got drafted. When I broke my neck, when it ended, and I knew it was over when I hit the boards, and we could talk about that more. Yeah. I instantly went towards trying to be the best for the world. Instantly. It didn't take 5 seconds. I was conscious when I hit the ground. I knew my neck, I had broken my back, right? Because I heard it. When you break your back like that, you hear it, right? And it's done. So, all of a sudden I knew that there was nothing there anymore. Just like that, there was nothing there. There was no hockey anymore. And it was a huge, vast pit. And I needed something, and it was like, okay, so what am I going to do? And in that moment, all I could think of is helping other people, and how I was going to help. This is hard. How I was going to help my family, right? I mean, those were the two things that hit me: being the best in the world, and how was I going to help them, because they needed.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, I definitely want to get to the actual injury piece, because obviously that's been such a influential part of your success and your vision and the person you've become to help all of us. I think it's but going into that, right? I mean, I think it's such a strong person and a strong personality, because to me, I would think that if you're drafted second overall, you're a hockey player, right? That's your identity. I mean, when you look back, where you're like, oh, well, this is what I'm going to be the best player in the world. Like, that's my vision. Like, that's who I'm going to be. And can you just talk about, let's get to the injury in a second, but how dangerous it is for a young athlete to go in saying and have a singular, and I know there's a part of that is why you're successful, but why that singular focus that this is who I am. I am a hockey player. How dangerous is that if you don't have anything else to lean back on and support you when you're not a hockey player anymore?
Yeah, taking responsibility is probably the biggest issue for hockey players and professional athletes, in my opinion. I've struggled with that, since my career ended, and somebody has to grab me and point me back at responsibility, right? Because it was just a game, and you just run around playing a game, and you're trying to beat somebody else, and that's what motivates you. And so the whole structure, throws a human being off. And the things that we're discovering in science right now is it's about the world. It's not about the physical, psychological. It's about what's happening to you and how the world's affecting you. So we don't have the ability to protect ourselves from becoming what we're around. And so if you look at a hockey player, what are they around? 80% of the time they're in the dressing room. They're becoming that thing. And if they're not aware that that's happening to them, and I think that's where the next piece of education is going to go, what is happening from these other people, and so that's the area that's cutting edge right now. And you're going to see a lot of scientific research happening. I know because of the relationships I have with the neuroscience community.
You're bringing up something pretty interesting, Doug. In my coaching journey, it's taken me all over the world. And I have met kids who, and this is not a joke for the listeners, who have not left the square mile they were born in their entire lives.
Mm-hmm.
All right. When I work in the cities, you'll meet kids who have not left a mile radius their whole life. So their universe is that mile radius.
Mm-hmm.
And adversely, I've coached hockey players that have been in multiple continents and seen multiple parts of the world. The difference in perspectives is vast. And my point is, it's not that one is better or than the other. Your experience is your experience, but you can get locked in. You don't know what you don't know.
It's dangerous. It's dangerous.
Correct. Right. And like you said about the world and the community, to me, not to go super on a pedestal here, but the human experience really is what should be shared with each other so we can all learn. It kind of goes back to what I said earlier, is I'm not the first person to do this before. Right. So I think that that's a fantastic answer about, identity, especially in the game. And again, look, for the kid, with the kids, yeah, look, when you get into something, it becomes your whole universe when you're young. You just don't have that perspective. It's just on us as, I will say, the village, to introduce new perspectives. Again, in my house, you are required to play an instrument or sing in addition to sports.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right? Yeah, it's just part of it. It's just the way to, and just so everybody listens. Yeah, my kids don't hate music. I'm not forcing them to do it. It's just that's how we presented it.
Wow.
That's what they're doing. And you know what my son said to me the other day? Mike, I didn't even tell you this. My son he plays the violin. And he came to me the other day unprompted and started connecting violin and the creativity of violin to hockey.
Wow. And
he was talking to me about how he's learning the music and how that coordination somehow in his brain is connecting to the game. Now he's a goalie. So these might be goalie things that he's saying now that I'm thinking about it. But how cool was that? That he's seeing it. And to me, in the point of this conversation, the point I'm bringing this up is, to me, that's, the world just opened up to him a little bit more.
Yes.
Right? He's not just a goalie.
Yes.
In his mind. And I don't mind gushing about my kids. It's our show. I hope everybody at home listening gushes about your
Absolutely. Kids too. I love it. I got grandkids now, and it's Tuesday with summer Tuesday with Grandpa Doug's sports camp.
I love it. We should think of an acronym for that.
Yeah.
The point.
Well, I think when you say that though, Lee, and right, Doug, I think that's why music's so powerful, and theater and the arts for athletes, I think, because it is a symphony, it is a dance, it is coordination, it is rhythm. That is what sport is. It's just another rhythm. I love when I do a lot of lacrosse training and doing wall ball, and I'm like, guys, just put some headphones on and find some music you love rhythm with. Find rhythm, because that's when you see a clunky kid and you just see a kid without rhythm, I'm like, well, if that kid can't dance well, he's probably not a great athlete. He just just goes hand in hand. But I think to Lee's point, so you're not only, and if you're a listener to the show, you'll know, not only you're becoming, and we joke around about everything can't be to become a better hockey player, but this sounds like it's a good thing to become a better hockey player. So it has two instead of playing baseball and hockey to become a better hockey player, learn music, learn music, learn rhythm, learn dance. It's going to help you in life. And I think, Doug, that's where you come in after, you get this catastrophic injury. I need to hear more about this because it sounds, forget about how emotional it sounds. To me, it's such a devastating conversation because of, and looking back of like where you are now and what you overcame and what you were able to persevere through. I think, could you just walk us through that process of,
so here, let me,
and just hearing you talk about it just initially, I'm like, okay, well, I not that I want to hear more about it, but I got to hear how you got through it and then instantly said, okay, I got to do something else now.
Okay. So let me tell you the story. Okay. Here's the story. And I rarely tell the whole story of what happened because it's not that it's too long, but it was complex. So I shattered C5 and 6. I went 25 miles an hour, about 40 kilometers an hour, head first into the end boards with no slowing down, dead stop. And it caused a compression explosion of C5 and C6. I fell to the ice with my head on my hands. All the ligaments in the back of my neck were torn, and I was neurologically stable. I stayed in that position for 6 hours while they searched my spine for injury, and they finally found it. And then they put me in halo fixation, which I did not go under anesthetic for because I didn't want to be put to sleep. So I had them screw 4 screws 3 millimeters into my skull awake. Jeez. And it was like a Frankenstein movie, right? And then so I'm in the halo that halo taught me something. I couldn't look down, so I had to look people in the eye, and I didn't usually look people in the eye before. And being in the halo for 3 months, like when you walk into a room, everybody looks at you, and you can't put your head down, and you can't close your eyes. And so that taught me a huge lesson, being in the halo. And then when I got out of the halo, my wife was due in a month. She was 8 months pregnant, and we had a 2-year-old. And so when they took the halo off, they found a kink in my neck, so that because of the ligaments were torn, so they had to do stabilization surgery. And it was very risky because I had narrowing of my spinal cord canal, and I went into surgery, and the last thing I remember, I woke up on the table after surgery, and I couldn't feel anything, and I just went, oh, excuse me for saying this, but I went, fuck. And I closed my eyes and I went back to sleep. And the doctors told us that there wasn't really any chance for recovery. I was moved to the Ottawa Rehab Center, where I used to take my wheelchair down the hall, and I had one arm. I could use my left arm, and I would throw a ball against the wall, sitting on the floor. That's how I started, in a hospital in the middle of the night, sitting on the floor, throwing a ball against the wall. And there were no cameras. There was nothing like that happening. And then they didn't treat me very well because improvement wasn't a big, huge thing on the agenda at the rehab center then. And even now we're seeing problems with it. And so one weekend, my wife took me home, and she had a hospital bed that she had gotten from Carleton Place Hospital at home. And I never went back. She had the baby a week before I was paralyzed, before my surgery. And we had a newborn and a 2-year-old at home. And I literally crawled out of that bed. It was we had finished building a new house, and the hospital bed was there. She was catheterizing me 3 times a day because my bladder, I had no bladder function, no bowel function, no arms, no legs. And so it was like starting with a fresh slate. And now, I mean, I'm back to doing anything with a Frisbee, and I'm teaching my grandkids how to juggle, all the things that I did when I was recovering from a spinal cord injury because I was a child. I learned how to do all this stuff as a result of trying to recover. So it was about a year I had no bladder function, and I had to get off all my medication. So I was addicted to morphine. So I was on morphine, like 50 milligrams every 4 hours for a year. But my bladder wouldn't function. And my wife was still catheterizing me with the babies.
Jeez.
And so it was like, okay, no more medication. And I went cold turkey. I remember the last half of my pills, the last half of pill that I had left. I remember it because I had it and I said, that's it. Within 3 weeks of getting off the medication, my bladder started functioning, and my bladder functions fine today. It's functioned for another 30 years. Right. So, that's the story. And now I'm back. So right now I have no extension strength in my right hand. So I can grip, but I can't push away, because when you suffer from a spinal cord injury, you close up like a flower closing up. You lose the ability to open. So I spend a tremendous amount of time in the rehab center that I work at now, opening up, movement, not linear. We don't do anything linear at the clinic. And I'm encouraging the kids and the athletes that we're working with, because we're working with professional athletes. I'm encouraging them to change the way they think about linear workouts. So that's where I am now. I'm like, use your brain more. I was left with just my mind for a period of time.
No, I mean, you literally rebuilt your body. I mean,
I did.
What you talked about earlier, about the no cameras being there and nobody really watching you, and the one thing that was a little disturbing was like nobody really like believing that what you were doing would help, and when you said you still think that might be a little prevalent today, is this just the nature of the injury, where somebody says, listen, your mind's not powerful enough to overcome this injury, or is it just you because of who you were, and you're obviously you're a professional athlete. Like, so your ability to withstand pain and to overcome adversity and to fight through things obviously was inherent, because you wouldn't have got to where you got if you didn't have those things. Was that a big factor in where you are today?
I wanted to die. Like, there was 2 times that I wanted to commit suicide, but I was paralyzed. And you can't hold your breath to death.
Right.
Because you'll pass out. And so I told my wife, when I couldn't turn the shower on, and when they wheeled me to the shower and I couldn't get the shower on, that it was time. And she said, well, she's like got a baby in one hand and nursing the other. She said, that's enough of that. We're not going to have this conversation again. So, that got me over like some hurdles that I didn't have the physical or psychological capacity to overcome. And the whole world is shifting to this. And if the audience can get anything today, it's the shift from mind body. We moved to this mind body concept of how the world works, and everybody bought into it, but it's nonsensical. It can't be supported. The model that we're going to subscribe to in the future, all of us, is world brain, because our brain synchronizes with the world, right? So from a psychiatric standpoint, from a neuroscience standpoint, it's world brain, not mind body. Throw mind body out the window and get every kid that you work with, get every team that to shift to a world brain model, and get them to understand that every one of your actions is going to impact every other single person in the room, and watch the kids like master this stuff, but you got to prove it to them. And that's what I'm embarking on right now. Is I'm about to open an 18,000 square foot clinic, and we're just going to be doing this. That's all, with kids. It's a school too, grade 4 to grade 12, and it's called the Peak Performance Academy, and we're going to start producing some of the best athletes in the country there. And this is just opening. We're just like in the next 2 weeks, we're opening the facility, and they're lining up outside the door because it's about recovery, performance, and longevity. There's no point in having longevity if you don't have performance, because you're going to be in pain. Right. You don't want to be in pain. So recovery, performance, longevity require the same systematic approach to human performance. So there's no difference between them. Because I recovered using that process. I became an NHL player using that process. So what's the difference between recovery and performance? There isn't one. And so prove that. The kids that are watching this or listening to this, I'm about to prove that. So just come knocking, and I'll just say, here you go. Here's the data. And when we launched the study of 1,000 people, 1,000 to 1,200 people with the Royal Ottawa Mental Health Center here in Canada, when we launched the study that we're doing, everybody's going to jump on board. If you want to be early, then subscribe to this now, right? And then start to get dripped on and build trust. That's what I'm doing now, is I'm working really hard at building trust with the people who are listening to me.
Is it possible? Like, I'm not in Ottawa, right? So is it possible I just want to hear more, not to give, you don't have to give anything away, but just explain to me how you're instituting this. You would institute this philosophy to a group of 14-year-olds, and they're in the room and they all think they're doing this, but really they could be doing this.
Yeah.
And how that is going to benefit them.
Yeah. The bump in performance is about 300%. So they'll and when you work with groups of people and you show them the physics, this is a physics exercise, okay? The bump in performance for an organization is 300%.
Right.
Right? To take the culture and take it from a toxic culture to a high-performing culture, that's about the performance bump that you get. And the same numbers work for each human being. So like when you switch your perception of what it is to be successful and it gets you on the right ladder, not the wrong ladder, because the other ladder sort of ends at 12 feet. You want to go to 25 feet, right? But people have bought into, I can only go to 12 feet.
Right.
Because somebody sold them on that.
It's funny, how do I say this? The constraints we put around ourselves that don't exist. And I'll give everybody a funny example of this. Like, money is a made up thing. Now, look, you need it to survive. I'm not saying money doesn't matter, okay? Because like that is how we govern buying and purchasing things. But you've heard the astronauts say when they get out into space and they look back at the Earth, it's like everything on this planet we made up. We created all of it. Money, government, languages. Like, it's all just something we came up with. It's not the universe, right? It's just constraints that we've made to govern ourselves, right?
Yes.
And when you realize that, again, it's not, I'm going to say this again, it's not that these things don't matter. People dedicate their lives to these things. But what I'm saying is there's a higher space here of like understanding that, wow, I'm locked into this cocoon that we've created for ourselves. There is space, yes, unintended, beyond that.
Yes.
And when you tap into that, it'll change your life in a lot of different ways, right? One of my favorite pictures that I've seen, Doug, and I saw this a lot actually when Artemis 2 was going around the moon, was it was like an arrow pointing at Earth, and it says, "You live here living in fear and paying taxes."
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and awesome. It's like that I love that one because it's true. It's like we create that mindset for ourselves. All right. Yes. And look, just to the audience listening, I'm not saying if you adopt the mindset that we're talking about here, that all your problems go away or anything like that, but you will become more creative in how you can find solutions and how you see the world. Doug, one of my beliefs, and look, I'm a team builder by trade, is that the more we can get used to working together, the more success you will find. Right? Yes. Like we humans are meant to operate in teams. Whether you are introverted or extroverted or anywhere in between, every bit of data shows we are supposed to work together in groups or herds because we are also animals at the end of the day, right? And I think that tapping into that is also important. And you're talking about that quite a bit, about the world mind. I love that. I never heard that before.
It's not a mindset, it's a process.
Right.
Okay, so it's a process for transformation, and let me read the system to you so that when I go and speak to an audience of 500 people, every single person gets this this system at their seat, because I want to say to them before I start that if they have to go, they can take with them what I came to deliver. So there are only 4 types of trauma that we suffer from, and we all suffer from them: catastrophic physical, catastrophic emotional, cumulative physical, and cumulative emotional. Cumulative emotional is the only one we can't see. So that's the only one we have to worry about. The other ones, you can see them.
Yeah.
So you stop doing it. Some of them, it's so obvious. And so cumulative emotional trauma requires something else other than your brain's ability. Okay, because the subconscious mind controls you. It controls 95% of you, and it's like an 800-pound gorilla. But it only has 3 priorities: meeting basic needs, which is the money thing, right? Just meet basic needs, working on clarity of thought, and helping other people. It doesn't care about anything else. If you're not behaving in a way that feeds those priorities, you're cutting out 95% of your human potential.
Wow.
And so the behaviors in order that you can learn, and they're easy to learn. You can learn them through meditation. I've got a beautiful meditation series: awareness, purpose, motivation, focus, belief in self, trust, asking for help, and emotional control. That's the order, right? And so order in a knowledge worker society, when the speed of information increases, is critical. Because if you get the order wrong, you're going to be so far behind, you're going to think you're out in front.
So Doug, do me a favor. I love that you said you speak to 500 people, because right now you're speaking to a few thousand people. Read me those in order again, and I'll tell you why I'm having you do that. Read me those in order. In order.
Oh, you can't have the one underneath it before you have the first one. Awareness. Right. Yeah, awareness is first. If you're not aware, you're done.
Right.
Purpose. If you don't have a purpose, then you're done. Motivation, focus, belief in self, trust, asking for help, and emotional control. Now, I didn't learn those behaviors in that order. I didn't need awareness to get to the NHL. I just stumbled into it.
Right.
It wasn't until after I broke my neck that I had to become aware. Somebody slapped me across the face and said, get with the program. This isn't reality.
Right. Be conscious.
And be conscious. Yes.
Be conscious. Now, yes. I had you read those again because when we started this show several years ago, 6 years ago, one of the catalysts for us starting this show, and I remember having this conversation with Mike, was all this footage of these crazy moronic parents completely losing their emotional control on camera and fighting in the stands or doing something crazy. And the reason I had you read those again is because for those of you listening, I want you to think about in the stands people who do not have emotional control. And we're talking with you, Doug, and that's the end of the process, right? Of what you're talking about, right?
Yes.
It starts with awareness. I always love that word. Consciousness is one of the ones I like to say.
Emotional control is one of the hardest ones. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. No, it's fine. My point is that most people are trying to do that and they don't realize there's a process to get there. That's why you have a crazy hockey parent, because they're not conscious. They're not aware of these things. So I just think that there's a connection point there. And you're right. It's not just about being in a youth hockey arena. This is about life. This is about things. And you can accomplish amazing things without even knowing this. But when you become conscious to these types of concepts, it'll change your life.
So this works for recovery from anything, and it works to achieve high performance in anything.
Yeah.
And I got to go back to lacrosse, because lacrosse was my game, right? So it wasn't hockey. And so, like, how many kids are you working with, like, right now? Like, I want to come to your lacrosse camp more than I want to go to a hockey camp, man. I'm
come
back
on down. We got an open invitation. No,
I got the sticks.
At any given time, it's like I fight, and again, this is where and no doubt about this is. And I just talked to a bunch of parents yesterday. This is why this show is so important to me personally, because I don't get a chance to go out and see Doug Smith. I don't go out and get a chance to see this guy. I can take all this information, and then I have to remember, though, that not everybody is getting the same information as me. And I get frustrated, at listening to people. I'm like, this doesn't matter. What you're talking about doesn't matter. Like, to me, lacrosse is a field, a stick, and a ball. You don't need to travel to another country or state to get better at lacrosse. You need to be in your own state, like of mind. Like you need to be in a whole different area. And I think today's hockey world, sporting world, lacrosse world, is we're all chasing something else instead of going and following these little directives that are really the essence of life, right? But we're trying to get to another destination without and talking about, not having a bridge. Like, we don't even build our own bridge. We're just saying, hey, get me over there, but I don't want to have to do, I don't have to pay the tolls. I don't want to have to do all the things to get there. Just get me there. And by the way, I'll just pay to go there. And I think this is where we've lost so much in our youth sporting culture here in the US, for sure. I know in Canada, because we talk to Canadians every day. And it sounds like, you're trying to build that bridge to kind of bring this back in.
Yes. The model is shifting. So sports and corporate are my market. So corporate needs this because it's an invisible competitive advantage. So I'll be delivering this to executives and showing them and proving it to them, and then walking out of the boardroom.
Right. And the fact is, our athletes are our next business people. This is why that's why we do this, right? I know that there are and Lee, right? We talk about it every day. There are the percentage. I get it. They get involved because they want their kid to go play pro. But everyone else, the mere mortals, every single other person is going to have to do work in something that's not hockey. And this is the vehicle, or one of the ways, that we can teach our youth players and athletes and parents the way to get this through the system without and still getting sport, still getting the play, which we all love to watch and participate in.
A process. Everybody lock this in. What is your process for transformation? And I ask people that, I ask kids that, I ask their parents that. Can you show me what you're using your process for What the heck is that?
Right.
Change. I don't like change. Change is in the cupboard. I put change. Wait. Whoa. It's speeding up. Okay. So if the game's speeding up, you better stop, trying to play old school hockey.
No doubt about it. I think we see this all the time and the reason a guest like you is so intriguing to me is because we keep trying to put, when I see players that aren't already on an elite team or the best team in their age group, they're all continuing to follow the same path as those players. And in fact, what they need is a whole different path. Right. They need something so different because they're never going to catch them. They're never going to catch up. But we just keep saying, well, this is what I do this, and then I do this. No. You can't do any of these things because you're not even there. So you're trying to get there without building any support and any foundation, but it's such a hard concept for parents to embrace. It's almost impossible.
Yeah, something interesting about lacrosse. It's the best sport for proprioception.
Yeah. Right.
And proprioception fires neuroplasticity, right? Because you can't see the ball going into the net, right? Your hockey stick's out front. Your lacrosse stick's behind you. So you have this space that's unseen that you're managing.
Right. 12-year-olds don't even know if the ball's in there in the stick.
That's right.
What happened? It's not there.
That's right. So just imagine, right? Yeah. If you introduce proprioception to them, for example, at the University of Montreal, Dr. Faubert is doing the latest work on three-dimensional tracking, and we're in the clinic, we're using the technology, and we're seeing like a 600% bump in performance in 6 weeks. Everybody improves anywhere from 50% to 500, but it's like, holy, you can generate this proprioception in the lab inside your brain, in my brain. And so I took it on and went 6 weeks hard. I quadrupled my spatial capacity, and even driving and doing other stuff with my body, my brain's got it under control. So, and you can keep pushing this ball slowly with this technology. It's only 10 minutes a day. Yeah. And your brain takes a long time to slow down. So you can speed it up quickly. And then it takes a long time to slow down unless you just go sit on the couch. If you go sit on the couch, your brain will slow down like a gyroscope, and then you won't be able to handle the fast play. Everybody knows that what that feels like.
Yeah, I've always been amazed. I tell my own players this: you can accomplish a lot in 10 minutes a day or 15
Yeah.
minutes a day, and it can be mindfulness, it can be strength, it can be anything, right? Any skill you want to build. It does not take as much time as people think.
No.
Right now, again, you can put more time into it. Don't get me wrong, but I'll give you a great example. Just bring this back to youth hockey. I coach a 10U team. And one of my prerequisites is and I do it like this: on non-skating days, keeping in mind we typically skate 4 days a week. On non-skating days, I want you to do 10 minutes a day of really basic puck handling. I give them the exercise. I say, I just want you to get in the habit. Mm-hmm. Well, what if I'm not good at it? I just want you to get in the habit, because these habits pay off way down the line when you're 25 years old and you just know how to form a habit. Mm-hmm. And not to mention, I tell the parents, you'll be shocked what 10 minutes a day will do. And I say, I encourage 7 days a week, but at that age, I don't force anything, right? Or 5 days a week. And then I'll do things with mindfulness too. Like, mm-hmm. I want you to focus on an object for 30 seconds and really describe the object and feel the object and look at the shape and the colors and things like that. You can build these up in less time than you think. And for those of you who say, and look, we've all heard this before, I don't have 10 minutes a day. Yeah, you do. Yes,
I'm going to give you my meditation series, right? Which hasn't launched. It'll launch in the fall, and you can share it with your audience, and they can download it to their phone, and they get all the behaviors and the model. It's like I just want the world to have it. My dream is to drop what I created from helicopters. And so when somebody picks it up, they find it on the ground, they look at it, they go, "Ooh, geez, I'm going to take this."
My secret.
That's my dream.
In Mike's area, we'll just drop them from the sky. They're having a parade in New York in a few days.
We could use a couple of boxes. You're going to need more than a helicopter. But I think, but to your point, I think this is where, Doug, I wonder, as you go into this as a business perspective and really like changing, a culture of sport, is that do you find that, like, I know, like, in a lot of things I do, like the best kids I work with and the best families I work with are my least energetic influencers of what I do, because they all think that it's like their secret. They're like, oh, well, I'm not going to tell somebody about this great piece that I found for my kid, because that's like my thing. Like, I want that for me. So it's a funny thing how parents, but when you bring it back to the team success is my success. Like, when our team succeeds, we all are helping do this, that yes, you're still gonna get what you wanted. You're gonna get your own success. I think that's just a hugely important piece to the parents that listen to this, because right now, we have those parents that say, "Oh, I'm gonna find Doug Smith's pamphlet and I'm gonna live it, and my kid's gonna succeed," without them knowing that they can succeed without the rest of the team succeeding. And I think that's really one of the most important pieces of this. No?
Yeah, you become what you're around. Again, if nothing else is learned from this talk today, subscribe to that rule. If you subscribe to that rule and you figure out a model based on that, your success will be much higher. So like it's astronomical what happens to people. And if you get a group of people together and they all agree that that's the way it is, then all of a sudden it's like super accelerator, right? So like, imagine that, because we're seeing it. We've seen it for years in turning around a work culture. So you got a company that's got 500 people and it's flying Mach 5 into the ground. How do you turn it around? You turn it around by changing the culture. That's the only way. There isn't another way, right? And so we already know this. And so all we're doing is applying some of this stuff to sports.
Yeah, and I think that, I'm going to say this again, Doug, that it takes the whole community to kind of do this. It's, I think parents, Mike, to your point, are always focused on their player and what my player needs. Sometimes it's us as parents. We have to have a shift too. I remember some really influential people in my life that were adults when I was younger. I'll say a teenager, maybe in that kind of spongy age as a teenager.
Yeah.
And I was watching these adults go through some pretty major transformations, and it had a massive effect on me. As not just a player, but as a person. And it really helped me prepare for life better. So I'm just making the point of this information is not just limited to children or hockey players. Like, it's all of us. We all play a role in finding this. And parents, people listening, if you improve upon yourself as a person, it will transcend to your children 100%.
Yeah, meet basic needs, clarity of thought, and helping other people. And don't focus on anything else. The other stuff will get done.
100%. I want to ask that too, just perspective for hockey parents, just bringing this back, because I'm sure we're getting a lot of nods at home right now. Like, this is great stuff. What, after everything you've experienced with perspective, a lot of parents focus on wins, losses, rankings, recruiting, how many points my kid got, how do you equate that to long-term success? What should parents be focused on?
Oh, I only know my experience. I never knew how many points I had growing up. I never knew how many points I had when I was in the NHL. I should have, because it was my business, but my brain doesn't work that way. It's like I learn from the experience, and then I move on and leave all the negative stuff behind, and just, just keep it real and keep it positive and keep smiling, and that seems to have worked like incredibly well, not just psychologically, but physically. And the fallout from what we're talking about today into the mental health sector is massive. I'm doing a Dare to Be Vulnerable event in Ottawa with I don't know how many people on Thursday, right? And this subject of mental health and what happened with Claude Lemieux and all this stuff.
Yeah.
People are actually searching now, and the ones, what I'm telling healthcare workers, chiropractors, massage therapists, don't worry, the numbers are too big. Don't look at time or the next few months as an issue in your life, because there's so many people coming at the practitioners now. The baby boomers are just about to be a dump truck. You just got to get your processes down, get your systems ready, and get ready for the wave, because it's going to be a big wave.
Yeah, I agree with you that that's coming. And, I love that you use the word vulnerability. What used to be looked at as a massive weakness is now being understood that it's actually a massive strength, right?
Yes.
I mean, there is a way to do it, right? And I think when we say vulnerability to people, a lot of people think, well, I'm not going to be crying in a corner talking about all my feelings. Like, that's not exactly what that is, right? So I think an exploration into that from all of us, teaching your kids to be able to do that creates strength, all right? Because I'll say this too, Doug, sooner or later, if you don't figure that side of it out, it will explode. It's going to come out at some point.
It's hard. You don't get away with anything. And it's hard for me too. Like, I get up in the morning and go, what are the priorities? Do I need to meditate on the priorities?
Yeah.
and if you get those priorities out of whack, it's amazing how certain things will slip,
Right.
And it happens to me, right? So shit, all the time.
Yeah, I just, I wanted to go back to hockey for 1 second, because I don't want to miss this opportunity, unless we're going to go for another hour, Lee. But I think, I think there's, I think especially a lot of the audience that we have right now, is not going to remember or even know the LA Kings of the gold and purple area in that time frame, like how good and how great the players were on that team. Can you describe the influence that being a part of that organization very early in your professional career had, when you had guys like Marcel Dion and Zimmer and these guys? It's unbelievable, right? I mean, so could you just talk about just the what those players did that you saw as a young player coming into the league that said, wow, these guys are professionals and this is how they conduct themselves every day?
It wasn't really like that when I got to LA. It was pretty much an organization in decline. George was drinking too much, like George McGuire, and I ended up in court having to testify against Don Perry, my coach, for destroying somebody's career. So I was 19 years old, and I was in court doing depositions against my coach, and then sitting on the bench in front of him. And it was insanity in LA, because there was only one team on the West Coast, so there was no cameras on us. And the philosophy of the teams back then was, show up for practice on time, show up for the plane on time, and show up for the game on time. And we don't give a shit what you do outside the game. So I took a bag of money, a bag of cash, $28,000, okay, in 1981. And I took a bag of cash. I got a cab to drive me to Circle Porsche Audi, and I gave the guy the cash for that black Porsche right there, and I drove it out of the freaking showroom onto the street in Long Beach. And there was nobody on the team. I was wearing shorts and a Hawaiian shirt. There was nobody on the team. They weren't interested in helping. Now today, going back to Edmonton and the closing of the Northlands and seeing the different teams now in Buffalo, each player has like 6 or 7 supporters, where I didn't even know what it was when I first heard the name, right? We had literally no support. And there was the culture in LA was many of the guys that were coming there because they wanted to finish out their career. Tiger Williams, Steve Shutt, like these guys were 34, 35 years old, and not that they weren't good players or good guys, but there was no real building mechanism going on. So I was begging to be traded from year 3. And finally they hired Pat Quinn in year 4. And he was the first guy, Pat Quinn, and I had him again in Vancouver because he wanted me again. He was the first guy to ask me what I wanted to achieve. The first coach that I ever had like that, and that was in year 4. Okay, right. Nobody cared what I wanted to achieve, what I wanted to accomplish. Pat said, "What do you want? I'm the new coach, general manager. I got to get out of here." And immediately Scotty Bowman stepped in Buffalo, and he'd been trying to draft me since the draft. He traded for me, and I went to Buffalo and became a star in Buffalo from LA. But I was literally trapped in LA because the contracts weren't written in a way that you could like say I want to be traded somewhere.
Right.
I would have had to stop playing.
It's a different time in sports history.
Right, but you make a just for today's athlete, right? That that what you were given, like a bag of cash and the ability to just go do what you wanted to do without any advising, without any influence. That a lot of our kids are doing that now at 10 years old. They're doing that with social media. They're doing that with the tools they have that nobody is giving them. Like most of these players, that especially the ones that have their own accounts. Forget about the ones that have parent-run accounts. But some of these athletes, they don't know what they're getting into because nobody's guiding them in the right direction and say, you know what the future looks like? That the future is not this. And that those pitfalls are not being taken care of for sure. Well,
the guardrails,
Yeah.
So the guardrails weren't there in LA. They're there now. Thank goodness they're there now. I'm so happy about that. And then I went to Buffalo and Scotty treated me like a superstar. So I became one. And then we fell out of friendship, Scotty Bowman and I, and not the guy to develop a bad relationship with, but he got fired from the Buffalo Sabres because of me. And then they brought me back to the Buffalo Sabres, and I ended up getting traded to Edmonton when Gretzky went to LA. I went right from Buffalo to Edmonton. Then I went to play in Vancouver for Pat Quinn again, and Trevor Linden, and then Mario Lemieux. We weren't going to make the playoffs, and Mario asked if I'd be able to go to Pittsburgh to play on his line, in 1990, and that was massive. And when that season ended, unfortunately, they hired Scotty Bowman as director of player operations, and I ran directly face first into Scotty Bowman, who didn't like me. And you know what Scotty was like with guys he didn't like. Right? He loved me, but then I did something that I've never been able to figure out in my life. I did something that made him hate me. And I tried to see Scotty Bowman at the Ottawa Senators game, at an Ottawa Senators game about 6 years ago. And Dave Lewis, the coach of Detroit, who was my roommate in LA, went to the room to get Scotty out to come and see me because I was downstairs at the Canadian Tire Center. And he was gone for 10 minutes. And then he came back by himself. He said, "Scotty won't see you."
Wow.
Scotty won't see you. It was devastating for a while for me because I was going to apologize to Scotty for, what had happened, and it had been bothering me. But he just literally cut off the relationship, which again, old culture.
Yeah, some people do that. I've had experiences with that, not Scotty Bowman, of course, but with other people too. It's always amazing. One of the things, Doug, you bring up though, is the question of environment and creating environments for teams and for players. You know, I'm looking at that photograph behind you. Is that Miracle on Manchester? That game,
yes, that is the Miracle, the biggest comeback back in NHL playoff history.
Right.
And I happened to get the second goal of that game, and then I won the face-off to Darrell Evans, who scored the winning goal in overtime, 2 minutes into overtime. And Darrell, it's funny, Darrell's still working for the Kings today, and nobody knows who won the face-off directly to him.
Well, I'll tell you, Doug, I bring it up because, you know, when we think about the Miracle on Manchester, and kids look that one up, you know, it's interesting because it sounds like, excuse me, the environment was one thing, but what you hear about the team from that time is another thing. And I'm just bringing that up to share that, you know, what you see on the television, what you see on social media, and what's reality can be different things. But the environment in which you place yourself, Doug talked before about the people you place yourself around, really is a predictor of success or failure, right? And for those of you listening, you know, and adults too, right? Think about who you surround yourself with. Are they negative, condescending people? Are they people that bring other people down? Because you're going to end up like that. Are they people who bring people up? Are they there to support each other? Now, the beautiful part about the hockey community, and we hear it from our audience all the time in the emails we get, is just how supportive we can be of one another, right? And those are the type of people that I choose to be around. And Doug, I think you did a great job today of explaining a lot of different aspects of not just the game, but the mentality behind the game, you know, things that made you successful, the thinking outside the box is not a bad thing. And then going back to the beginning, you know, there are directions available. You know, there is a human GPS out there if you're looking for it, or you can just drive the map blind, see where you end up.
One of the reasons that people commit suicide is because they're left with no options. And you mentioned the word options before. So I encourage the kids and their parents to never stop searching for those options, right? Because when you run out of them, it's a bad thing. And so, you know, there's an unlimited amount of options for you out there. And if anybody wants to talk to me, I'm available. And we're going to make sure that the meditation series and the work that I do, and just so that you have the system in your hands, like it'll be given to everybody who wants it, that's paying attention to your show, for sure.
Yeah, well, we'll make sure to get that out there. And I think today's episode's been fantastic. And again, look,
I'll come back too. Like, we can talk more about the new facility and how, you know, how many people, what's happening, all that stuff.
Be careful of giving that open invite because we'll take it.
We will.
Well, I love the conversation. You guys are searching for the same stuff I'm searching for.
Yeah, well, and that's, I love that you say it like that, because that's the idea behind the show, right? Is to create the conversations that are going to get people to think and grow. And, you know, Mike said it before, I'll say it too. I've benefited greatly from this show as not just a hockey parent, but as a person, right? The things that you learn, like every Monday we joke, we have our therapy sessions on the show and we move forward. But Doug, listen, you've been a fantastic guest. For those of you listening, Doug's going to join us for a quick ride to the rink for the kids as well, to share this message. But Doug, thanks so much for joining us today on Our Kids Play Hockey.
Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it.
Awesome.
All right. In the show notes, we're going to put how you can get in contact with Doug if you want. Also, remember, you can email us at any time, team@ourkidsplayhockey.com, or use the link accompanying this episode in the description. You can actually text right to us. We can text back. And we love hearing from you out there, right? You guys run the show. I can't tell you how many emails and messages we get a week right now from you in support of what we're doing. But for Doug Smith, for Mike Bonelli, I'm Lee Elias. We will see you on the next edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, everybody. Take care. Have fun. See you soon. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.